I hope Kevin Willard does really well. I hope he buys my mom's house. I can guarantee he would want it. We need somebody to buy that goddamn house. I was talking to my brother yesterday. For those of you who don't know, God bless my mom. She's in her 80s. She lives in the house that we grew up in. It just like by happenstance, dumb luck, my parents bought the house 47 years ago. And the area around it has just become this like amazing place to live, especially if you have any affiliation with Villanova. And so Michael and I, my brother, were talking about, maybe we'll just sell the house right out from under her. Is there any way we can take like a power of attorney and just someday we just show up with moving trucks, like, all right, you're out of here. Kevin Willard's moving in. But we would never do that to my mom. But yeah, I hope things go well for Kevin Willard. It's a big deal to me if Villanova does well. One more thing I wanted to touch on, just a personal story about Villanova. Yesterday was a big day for me. Big day for a lot of us. 40 years since Villanova won the 1985 national championship. And I was a little kid, and that whole moment, Villanova was nowhere near. I think they were a double-digit underdog in the game. They were an 8 seed in the tournament. As Michael Wilbon put it, it was not so much a basketball game, a championship, Villanova versus Georgetown in 85. It was a coronation, right? Like Georgetown was that good. They had won the championship the year before. Patrick Ewing was head and shoulders better than any player in college basketball. So much so that there are conspiracy theorists out there that think that the NBA and David Stern rigged the draft lottery to get Patrick Ewing in New York, right? The following spring. But I watched that game again last night. Georgetown, first of all, Villanova shot 70%. So they couldn't have put, it's not like when you see upsets today, it's like, well, the other team didn't show up. They couldn't hit shots. Now, the brand of basketball was so clean and efficient. Reggie Williams was this 6'5" wiry guard from D.C. that went to Georgetown. Or maybe he was from Baltimore. He played with Muggsy Bogues on the DeMatha team from Baltimore. He would literally shoot jumpers. Now, there's no three-pointer, but he's shooting 20-footers that totally extend the defense, and he's not hitting the rim. I mean, this is like a Georgetown guy. And by the way, you think old school Georgetown, a bunch of guys from the inner city, they run up and down and dunk on you. No. John Thompson was playing chess. Like, lest anyone think that wasn't a brand of basketball that was heavy on X's and O's. Like, get out of here with that. John Thompson was an amazing basketball coach. It wasn't like, hey, let's roll the ball out and watch my guys dominate your guys because they're better athletes. No. This team was efficient. They were intense. They were in your face. They were scary, okay, this 85 team. And Villanova didn't blink. And the game in itself was amazing. And Georgetown played very good. Villanova played perfect. And that's what it was going to take to beat Georgetown. And for me personally, my mom didn't work at Villanova yet, but again, she went there. She never graduated, but she went there. She worked there. The next year she would go back and work at the athletic department. So she was very much like affiliated with the school. And I was at St. Thomas Good Counsel the day after they won the championship. And my mom showed up. I was like, is somebody dead? I was probably 8 years old. And she pulled us out of school, me and my two brothers, to go down to the city and watch the parade, dude. And we watched it. My father had an office working at Amtrak. I think at that point his office was on Market Street, like Suburban Station. So it's like, I think it's like around 15th. Don't quote me, but Suburban Station, it's right down in Center City. And we could see the parade route from my dad's office. It was amazing. But then here's where a dramatic turn takes place. And this is like the underbelly and the black guy on this championship that people don't like talking about anymore. I think it was a year or two later, my mom came home. She was working in the athletic department at the time, and she was like in a bad mood. I mean, and she had all the intel on what was going on, right? She was like not herself, but my mom also she had a big matzo ball, right? She couldn't wait to drop it on me and my brothers, I think. And we were like, what's going on? And I remember the words coming out of her mouth, Gary McLain is a cokehead. And Gary McLain was the point guard on that team. He was the MVP of the Final Four. Watching that game last night, I always say this when I call games, the ball was a yo-yo for Gary McLain. I mean, he was unflappable in the face of frenetic defensive energy from Memphis State, from North Carolina, and the round before that, and then ultimately Georgetown in the championship. And the guy was ice cold. I mean, he was amazing. And he was basically the maestro of that Villanova attack and that 70% shooting performance against Georgetown. I mean, he had, I think, 8 points in the championship, but it wasn't about, it was like you talk about that, what does this guy do that you can't see in the box score? That was Gary McLain. And so my mom tells us that. And my mom, the story was already out. My mom wasn't by any means like part of the coaching staff or like in Gary McLain's life like that, but she worked in the athletic department. And so now the reason my mom knew is because in the coming weeks, there was going to be a Sports Illustrated article, and Gary McLain had confessed to abusing cocaine and using it during the Final Four against Memphis State. He said he did coke before the game or at halftime, either or. And then in the article, which was a cover story on Sports Illustrated, right? It said "My Year in the Clouds." It was like a mural. It was a beautiful painting of Gary McLain. And apparently he got $75,000 for the article. And he ended up the next day after it came out, he was on Good Morning America. I searched for this article last night because I did such a crazy deep dive on this. And he's being interviewed by Joan London on Good Morning America. And I used cocaine a lot when I was at Villanova. I used it at halftime of the Memphis State game or during the Memphis State game. This is a semifinal game, guys, right? Like, it's unbelievable. And at that time, remember Len Bias, I think, had just died from cocaine intoxication, a Maryland basketball player, in between Villanova winning the championship and this article coming out. And the story opens up in Sports Illustrated that Gary was so high on cocaine that they were at the Rose Garden visiting President Reagan, and he was so whacked out on coke, he was ready to smack the president in the back of his head. That's how just jacked this dude was on cocaine. I mean, and back in the day, I'm a recovering addict. I can't imagine the stuff they were getting their hands on in the 80s. I mean, the guy must have been zooted out of his mind. But it really screwed up the celebration of that team, that championship. The university has done a wonderful job navigating it and moving through it. I think that Gary's teammates were like, look, did they party with Gary? In the 80s, a lot of people were using that drug. And a lot of evidence out there shows, although some people will refute it, but like more overwhelming evidence shows that people didn't know the downside of it. It was viewed as a drug that was left for high society, right? Like then when crack cocaine came in, that was for the dregs of society. But like cocaine was like, it was a powerful drug. And so sure, like maybe some of Gary's teammates partied with him. It was more like that time. But we're not talking about guys abusing the drug and using it in the middle of games. Like we're not talking about cocaine addicts, which clearly Gary had become. And it was a wild time. Craig Miller, who came on the first iteration of this show years ago, who was a sports information director for that team, tells a story. The day that it came out, like Coach Massimino had a press conference, and he says, like, I did not know that Gary McLain was using drugs, because Gary in the article said Coach Massimino knew, but he didn't like pursue any. He knew. He told me to stop, but I didn't stop. Whatever. Coach Mass refuted that in this big press conference, and Craig told the team, he's like, look, there's going to be media out here when you leave the facility today. Just walk to your cars. Don't don't make a big deal. And Conley Brown, this big 7-footer from Orange, Texas, walks out in the parking lot and is like this, like he committed a crime. It's like cameras get that image. So I hate to like bring up the underbelly of such a special time, but it's impossible for me and my connection and kind of how that whole thing played out, especially with Craig. Craig is like a big brother to me. He's a mentor to me. He gave me an opportunity at USA Basketball, which ultimately kind of got me in the door with this whole deal years ago. So that was just for me as a kid to see how that played out. It was the most amazing thing to have a front row seat for all that. So I wanted to share that with you guys. We got